the Sabbath. So we find the fourth commandment among the 10 commandments in Exodus 20, verses 8 through 11 is, excuse me, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, you nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it, set it apart, made it special. Okay, so the seventh day Sabbath in the Bible is sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. Genesis 1 states when the world is being created, and there was evening and morning, the first day, the second day, etc. So in biblical time, the day starts with the evening. Okay, so observant Jewish people and some Christian churches keep the seventh day Sabbath. We're known as Sabbatarians. And there are different languages that call Saturday Sabbath. It's very interesting. In Spanish, sábado, Saturday. Italian, sabato. In Russian, subot. And there may be others, I'm not really sure. But why is the Sabbath commandment so very important? Okay, let's take a look at the 10 commandments. The first commandment says, you shall have no other gods before me. Okay, fine. But who's me? That commandment doesn't tell who's speaking and giving the commandments. Satan could say, well, sure, you shall have no other gods before me. And how would we know? Any mentally unstable person or anyone who is trying to be a deceiver could say, I'm God, you shall have no other gods before me. And if they did enough smoke and mirrors and were persuasive enough, how would we know otherwise? Okay, let's take a look at the second commandment. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them nor serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, allowing the iniquity to fall on the children, but showing mercy to thousands to those who love me and keep my commandments. Okay, we've learned a little bit here. For I, the Lord your God, okay, that's some kind of name or title. We learn is jealous. He cares about who we care about and what we worship and how we worship. So we've learned a little bit yet, but still, Satan could say, well, I am the Lord your God, and I don't want you to worship anybody but me. And, you know, or any deceiver or unstable person could say that. And how would we know? Okay, let's take a look at the third commandment. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. Okay, we've learned a little bit more. We have learned that God identifies as male, and that's okay because God, higher than the heavens are above the earth, are God's thoughts from our thoughts and his ways from our ways. So if he's a male, then he's not going to be abusive. He's not going to be manipulative or tyrannical or anything like that. He's above all that. So we can rest easy. Okay, here's the fourth commandment. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days labor, do all your work. Seventh day is the Sabbath. In it You shall not do any work, nor anybody else around you. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, and the sea, and everything in them, all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. And you know what? There we have it. He created the heavens, the earth, the sea, and everything in them. That shows who me is. He's the creator of everything. And, that the co-equal Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, the one God in three persons, they are the only one in the universe who can say that truthfully, that they created the heavens, the earth, the sea, and everything in them. So none of the rest of us can say that. Everybody else is a created being. Satan is a created being. He cannot truthfully say that. None of the rest of us can truthfully say that. So if only God can truthfully make this claim, and if he created us and everything, don't we owe him some kind of loyalty? Do we owe him anything at all? Do we owe him gratitude? Do we owe him compliance? So Isaiah 8:16 says, "Bind up the testimony and seal the law among my disciples." An official document sent out by head of state is sealed with his or her own seal to make it official and to assure their subjects that it really is from them. And for example, the presidential seal of the United States these days would read Donald Trump, President, United States of America. And so, okay, there's the name, Donald Trump, the title, President, and the territory is the United States of America. That's the territory that he rules right now. Okay, so the Lord our God is the name of the great lawgiver. The title is the Creator. And what did he create? Just a little bit here and there, maybe, a couple of planets, maybe a couple of solar systems, something like that. No, he created everything. Heaven, earth, sea, everything. So his territory is everything and everywhere. The whole universe is his. So that's why Satan wants to obliterate the fourth commandment, to wipe it out of existence, to obliterate the knowledge of the Creator. And so that way he can claim to be our Creator. He can claim to be our Lord and to have our loyalty. He can show by force. He can rule the earth that way. And he's succeeded pretty well, hasn't he? But not completely. So in the Bible, it talks about the new moons and Sabbaths, plural. These were Old Testament festivals, and we don't really know too much about them, apparently. It talks about it a little bit in Isaiah 45, no, not Isaiah, Ezekiel 45, verse 17. And, Isaiah 66 mentions them, but whether these ancient days will be revived in heaven or whether they were like merely a reference point for the ancient people to upcoming celestial feasts or holidays, it's not really clear. But there is the weekly seventh day Sabbath, and then there were Sabbaths, lesser holidays or festivals. So, and that's another thing that I guess we're going to have to wait until heaven to find out about completely. But Jesus and the Sabbath, how did he relate to the Sabbath? Well, it talks about it in the New Testament, in the Gospels, and it talks about the Pharisees telling somebody, oh, you can't carry that mat when Jesus healed him because it's the Sabbath and you're not supposed to carry anything. And there were quite a few incidents like this. There were several, and Jesus asks in Mark 3, verse 4, he says, "Is it lawful to do good or harm on the Sabbath day, to save a life or to kill. And in Matthew 12:11, he says, "And he said to them, what man is there among you who has one sheep, and if it falls into a pit on the Sabbath, will not lay hold of it and lift it out?" That was when he healed a man with a withered hand. Um, of how much more good of how much more value is a man than a sheep. Um, you know, Luke 13 verse 15 said, "The Lord answered him and said, Hypocrite, does not each one of you on the Sabbath loose his ox or donkey from the stall and lead it away to water it?" Here Christ had just healed a woman from what sounds like a spinal affliction of some kind. The Pharisees showed more concern for their animals than for human beings. Um, and, a man or a woman who needed healing and care, and Jesus didn't wait to heal them. Healing and restoration and salvation is his very mission. So he didn't stop doing that on the Sabbath day. So Matthew 12:8, Jesus said, "The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath." And the Pharisees especially had hijacked it and made all these little rules, and just they kind of obscured the true meaning of the Sabbath with their rules and regulations. Mark 2:27, Jesus says, he gives the true meaning behind the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. It was supposed to be beneficial and a blessing to us. So, what about it? Will we be there? Will we keep that appointment that has never been canceled on the Creator's end? In Satan's kingdom, Satan has deliberately arranged that many of the fun things, games and shows and parties and this and that and so much more, they're scheduled Friday night through Saturday afternoon, ancient Sabbath time. And I personally think that's very cruel, and especially to children and youth. And but really, it's to everybody. But God lets him do it, partly to show his true colors, how cruel he is, and how he doesn't care about children or youth or any of us. And he loves to cause pain and a false sense of loneliness to those who want to follow the Lamb wheresoever he goes, as Revelation 14:4 states. And Satan loves to dishonor God. And so if he can make people forget their daily standing appointment with the sovereign of the universe, he will do it. So what if we don't show up? Okay, if the President of the United States makes an appointment with us, calls us up and makes an appointment for say 3 p.m. on Wednesday, and we don't bother to show because we have something more important or better or more fun or whatever it is to do that day, but we show up 3 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, what's he going to say? And, I mean, how is that going to fly with any earthly ruler who makes an appointment with any of his subjects or, citizens? So isn't it really the height of disrespect not to show up for the Creator's weekly appointment? Does it say something about what's important to us, what's most important to us? So the Sabbath is a special appointment time with God, to draw near to him, and he will draw near to us. It's a time to spend with him. It's like stepping into the next dimension or something. We approach the presence of God, who is awesome. And you know, it's a time to pour our hearts out to him. It's a time to listen for his voice and to hear his voice in his word. Um, it's a time to spend time with like-minded and like-hearted people who love the Lord, so that we can encourage one another, so we can, trade knowledge and wisdom, and we can, prop each other up and encourage one another. It's also a time to enjoy his natural works that he's created, nature without any distractions away from him. And it's meant to be a delight. Isaiah 58:13 says that. Not a burden, not a time of inactivity. I was acquainted with a woman who, when her daughter was growing up, she made her just sit still on Sabbath all day. And that was never intended to be the purpose of the Sabbath. And the poor girl, literally, she became psychotic. And so that is a great dishonor to God. That was never God's intention that anybody should go through that. Um, so it's meant to be not a bondage, nothing like that. It is meant to be a delight spent with our Creator and with anybody else who, would like to come and join in. We all have that invitation, and we all have that appointment with the one who is good all the time.